I don't know what that smile is about, you know.
Who,
I
mine?
wonder what that means. Nah, and someone just written Forest Gate.
Oh, God. I started to laugh when I saw it. Um, bro, let's go. So
Okay.
yeah, where do you want to take it from? You mentioned about Forest Gate. Where do you want to go?
All right. So, yeah, I remember growing up. So I went to a school called St. Bonaventures in Forest Gate, and there were a group called the P word for, East Asians, P Panthers. They were going around the schools, going around to different schools and just attacking anyone and everyone. It was namely, you know, us black people. And there were so many examples, or there were so many incidents where there were black and brown fights, right?
Yeah.
Big fights. I remember there was a party in a park in East Ham, and I literally got chased by a whole heap of Pakistani and Bengali boys, right? I can also say that there was retribution, yeah? And this happened not frequently, but it happened more than once, okay? It happened 3 or 4 or 5 times growing up. I remember a friend of mine, he's probably not on this live. Shout out to Daniel. Daniel was giving me running commentary in a park where he was seeing black boys doing some serious damage to Asian boys and the same in return. Yeah? The same in return. And I think what I'm trying to say, and I say all of that to say this: yes, racism in the white community needs to be spoken about. And yes, there needs to be an energy towards that. But we need to start being critical, present, and really stop worrying about our other minority friends and start asking them, are your family anti-black? What have you learned about black people before me? We need to start asking our own friends, because I know I've got a few friends who use the P word. I've tried to stop them. So what we need to do is, if we really want to tackle racism, it needs to stop being against just white supremacy, and we need to look at our own issues within as minorities, because there is racism amongst ourselves too.
Interesting. So then, and I'm asking a question to you both. Can black people be racist?
Well, that's a big question. I think anybody has the potential. To be honest with you, I think anybody has the potential to other out someone from another culture and background.
Mm.
I don't think it's limited to just one culture at all. And then, I think it's heck, it's massive. Like you're saying about the Brexit stuff, like how quickly did it take for the UK to turn on itself amongst and all the different factions inside itself? Because now, like, everybody's just turning it around to kind of point sticks at each other. It can happen so fast. It happened so fast, didn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like it was probably already there. It was just so much more amplified. And basically, people were given permission to do it then. That's what happened, really. Brexit was an excuse to show it properly.
But it was always there.
Oh, God, yeah. I think it was always there. I think, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it sounds really kind of thing, but I think it's always been there. And it's horrible to have to say that, but I think it has always kind of been there. Because, and I think it's right. I think I like totally back up what Nathan's saying, because a lot of the right conversations and questions aren't being asked from everybody. Do you know what I mean? We're not having the best conversations we could have to move forward together versus trying to protect ourselves in a lot of different ways and look for and kind of throw things out at others. Do you know what I mean? And there, think, yeah. So I think it's totally possible. Totally possible.
For me, I think it's limited. I think black people being racist or black people's racism is limited because if we go back to our initial thoughts, it was about power. And let's put it right and put it bluntly,
Yeah.
the black diaspora, and I'll speak from a UK perspective, we lack power. We there isn't there isn't much influence in, and I'm not talking about sporting industries or entertainment. So we're disregarding that, but we're just talking about in places of politics. We're talking in places of academia. We have very little power because there's not many black faces in those positions. So in terms of can black people be racist, I think at a grassroots level they can be racist. But I think if we're talking socioeconomically, I think it's very difficult. And again, that's why I would suggest that, yeah, black people can be prejudiced. Can we be
Discriminate.
racist?
You
Yeah,
mean
we can be. Yeah,
we can we can discriminate because our
yeah, we
prejudice
can
is what you
discriminate, but
think,
can we?
what you prejudice is what you think, and discrimination what you do.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So you're saying that we can discriminate based on race, but we can't be what?
So someone put it in there, policy making positions. That's exactly it. We're not policy makers. So, for example, a great example is hair. So black boys have been sent home in the past because of hair, because they've had braids or they had locks. There was a story that came out about it. Like these are the type of policies, school policies that can that showcases and exposes racial undertones. Do you understand? If you start saying, oh, that someone can't have certain braids or certain hair, you know that there is a an importance of hair within that community. Do you understand? Black people are not policy makers. We're not the decision makers. So that's why I think that in terms of racism, it's limited. It's limited for us.
I did. Do you know what? That's really good. It's good because then, like what you said, like I appreciate that what you're putting that forward there because it does. It makes me recheck again, and I like it's interesting because that's the value of these conversations. It helps me recheck, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Hold on, do I have to rethink this? Yeah, which is brilliant. So I appreciate that, and I think, and it's interesting. And I also wonder if one of part of the recheck is that if there is stuff that's going on, is it a result of the longevity, the intergenerational trauma, and it's not, and it's just almost kind of really a bit of it's anger, it's frustration, it's fear. Do you know what I mean? So, do you know what I mean? Instead of, and so that's a good recheck. I thank you for that. Do you know what I mean? So that's
Yeah,
valuable.
my eldest is 19, coming on 20, and I got three, 15 and 9. And when she was about 7, 8, I was always asking she said a few things to me that made me realize that she didn't like her skin color. My daughter's this color. She's quite light for, surprising how light she came out actually. She always takes the mickey out of us saying, are you my dad? That's what she keeps saying. But she, even that light level of skin, when she was a young child, she didn't know that she didn't like her skin color or her hair. And I was always saying to myself, what am I putting in this child to make her think like that? But it wasn't. It was what she was seeing in media. So back then, you couldn't get a black dolly, all right? That tells you a lot about the cartoons and the shows that she was watching. She's absorbing. And I guess I've been asking myself, what am I putting in my children so that they don't repeat? Because whilst I have to still teach my son that he has to walk in a certain way, and my daughters, they have to walk a little bit different from my son. There's different issues. A black male and a black female, they have different issues in society. And for my daughters, I'm looking at who are you going to marry? How are you going to marry? What cultures are you going to take up? What are you going to forsake from where you've come from? All these things come up for me. And I'm trying not to, I want them to embrace who they are, but also be fruitful, but also not replicate the oppressions that they've received. My son has received some. He's living at a different time and he's still picking up like, no, that's not right. That was prejudice. That was discrimination. And so this is a heavy conversation. And I'm just always thinking, how deep can we go? My question to you both is this. What have you learned? I have one more question after this, and then we can maybe talk a few minutes about anything. What have you learned about discrimination, prejudice, and racism that has informed you? Because you both do not sound like you want to perpetuate the stereotypes, and you don't want to perpetuate the sins of people who are ignorant. So, what have you learned about racism and discrimination and systemic racism and the diversity of what racism is? What have you learned about it?
Who's first?
Sorry. Let me call it Nathan. Go first. Sorry. Let me,
So I think I've had to be really introspective, and I've learned that I have a lot of, or rather, I had a lot of hatred towards the other races, particularly whites. I think what Stephen mentioned really hit the nail on the head with regards to trauma and anger. And I do think that that plays a role in the way that we move forward, and it almost programs our subconscious. And it's really, really interesting because I think in recent weeks, I am really trying to be very careful of what I consume. Friedrich Nietzsche said, if you go into the abyss in return will come into you. So if you keep going into a dark place and you continue going into a dark place, so this racism and dealing with the trauma without dealing with it, that abyss, that dark place becomes you into you. You end up manifesting that same thing that you have experienced. And now that's why I'm very careful with these type of conversations. It's why I'm very careful with pushing forward if something is racist, because I don't want to, because what I've realized in years that have gone by, when I have gone into the abyss, I haven't realized it, but I have become that same oppressive individual that I'm supposed to be fighting. And these are really difficult conversations, because so this is going to be controversial. So I look at the African Americans, and I know in recent years they have like a new group called FBAs, Foundational Black Americans. And one of the main proponents of the FBA is a gentleman called Tariq Nasheed. And what I find interesting about that community is that some of them, or sections of them, are manifesting the same hatred that they purport that they don't like and they have experienced. So for an example, this feeling of Black British actors playing their roles, right? And them having such a huge problem with it, yeah? And this is even within our own community. And for me, this is why that community in particular, FBAs, they remind me why I have to be very careful of how we tackle racism and how we tackle discrimination, because what I'm beginning to see is my own people of the same face as myself. They're displaying the same viewpoints. They're going into that abyss, and that's not something I want to do. I'm not countering. I'm not trying to fight racism for me to be racist back. I'm fighting racism because I believe in equality. I believe that I believe in humankind. That's why I'm fighting racism. I'm not fighting racism so we can be at the top. And my problem or my concerns is that we need to start checking our own people for some of the disgusting things that they say about other races. And this is not about it. And I'm going to finish. This is not about deflecting and protecting white people and brown people. But this is us being truly introspective and really trying to tackle racism. And I'll leave it at that.
Oh, that was heavy. You said what I was trying to say. You said what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Before we get to you, Steve, one sec. I mean, look, I'm not the greatest speaker. You know, that's why I do these interviews. I let you guys do the talking. You know, I remember my first angry response to white people was when I was about 10. I watched a movie, Mississippi Burning. Oh, it's the probably first movie about race I'd ever seen. I went to school. I saw it on a Sunday, and I went to school angry. Now, I went to school in South Croydon, and South Croydon was a very nice part of town. So obviously, I'm not just a minority. I'm the kind of minority where they check my bus pass every day, where the bus drivers used to treat us funny, you know? And we talk about it. I went to school where they used to use the N-word against me weekly, easily. That's where I was at that time. That was in the 80s, 90s, right? Mississippi Burning made me angry. And for some reason, it was weeks before I came down. I watched it again a few years later, and I was angry. I've seen a few movies since then, and I've been angry because I'm seeing the truth. But like you said, I can become just like you. There's another saying, by beholding, we become changed. Now, if I focus on the negativity of it or the behaviors of it, it will become me. Absolutely right. And I can tell you that I've experienced that many times. I was talking about it at work. I watched the movie Birth of a Nation, the new one with Nate Parker in it. Who directed that one. That movie messed me up. How do I not perpetuate that? I want to come to the solution at the end. But Steve, what have you learned? I mean, what did you want to say? Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no. I wanted to say, well, thanks for both of us for sharing those, because that's brilliant. That's part of my learning, right? In there is and it's interesting. The one thing I can concretely say is that I've learned that I still have to learn, and not just like learn more, but like every person I meet, every person I'm talking with, it doesn't matter where they come from. Embrace, like it sounds really corny, sounds really social worky, but I'm a genuine. Embrace them for who they are.
Yeah.
Not what you think they are. Right. And I think it's one of the things, like, and because I've been doing this job for a while, like 25 years, something like that, right? So we've seen lots of different things, but I think it's interesting. The biggest thing in all this kind of discussion, like literally is, and I kind of pride myself on trying to create a safe space for anyone to come into. Like, I think, Curtis, you're saying we bring something into the family when we go and we're doing our work.
Yep.
And I always say, I want to bring a sense of safety, calm, and acceptance. And I know it sounds corny. It all sounds like very Disney and all that crap. Do you know
No.
what I mean? But I think I'm a true believer in that kind of idea of, if you can make it safe for anyone, you can find with them the best way to help them move forward in their way that works for them,
Mm.
whatever their change will be. And I think that's the one thing I learned, is the idea of kind of, well, lots of people will be in conflict with each other for different stereotypes, different things, seeing the world from different angles in there.
Yeah.
Is that I think our job is a craft, and our craft is to kind of help people reflect and help them move them into a place where they can ask themselves, am I ready to look at me? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what I've learned, is in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And also to keep, and also that, like, kind of the more conversations, like there's a center called the Windrush Center up here, which is really an important part of the Manchester community. And it's quite funny, in small little ways. Like, I book, like when I have to deliver training, I book that place first. That's my the number one go-to.
Mm.
And for a couple of different reasons, because I want people to know where it is. I want people to get to know the people there. I want people to see the story on the walls. And then you're going to come into my training about whatever. And I think that's it. It's just like in all sorts of different ways. And I'm always looking for opportunities. And I think that's what another big learning is. I've kind of, I keep trying to learn how to find new ways to bring people together to open up important conversations. And like, that's why I was kind of like really grateful to you, Chris, and I saw the opportunity when you put it out there. Oh, there's another opportunity. Let me explore this. Let me kind of connect with Curtis and have a conversation. Do you know what I mean? And kind of keep the conversation going in a different way. Because even tonight, I'm learning stuff, aren't I? Which is fantastic,
Mm.
I think. I don't know, hopefully. But I think it does sound a bit corny and all blah, 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 fairy tale stuff, but in a lot of ways. But there is something there about the idea that, like, there's going to be people that will always judge others from different perspectives.
Yeah.
We may not be able to, like, it may take something different than a conversation to help them move forward, and some may never move forward, which is really unfortunate,
Mm.
right? But I think where it's possible to carry the conversation, like, I would see, if this is the start of one conversation, if this is the start of a conversation, the conversation isn't ending, it's
Yeah.
just starting.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
And to kind of keep it going and move it forward, it's kind of, I don't know, it is a heavy topic,
Yeah.
totally a heavy topic, right? Like, there's so many ins and outs, and there's like so many potential pitfalls um um to fall into accidentally,
Mm.
or not just be aware and fall into it,
Mm.
right? Do you know what I mean? But if I can be open, like, I'll speak kind of the first person. If I step into the pitfall and somebody's brave enough to say, "Hey, that wasn't cool,"
Mm-hmm.
and I can be open to hearing that and
Mm.
going, "Thank you,
Mm.
I'll do better."
I appreciate this. Guys, if you would just give our guests a round of applause, because it's been a tough topic, and it is frustrating because we want more time and we want to say more, and there's a lot to say. And I can tell that this needs a part 4, 5, and 6, not even a part 2. You know, I guess I want to hand you over to. I want you guys to leave us with a tip, because you've answered the last question, which is a part of the solution. Give us a tip that we can carry into our lives or our practice. Who wants to go first? Steve, you want to go first?
All right. One of my favorite questions to ask somebody when we first meet them. Give me an idea of what's one of the most important things you think I should know about you. Just to kick off a conversation.
I like that. I like that shit.
Do I need, it's kind of somebody gets to pick what they want to talk about, what they want to share. They get to highlight what part of self they want to share and talk about. And I like it because it's a nice open-ended question. Do you know what I mean? And then it's kind of depending on how somebody answers, because it can be a little bit off-putting for people. Some people struggle with it, but it's all right. Do you know what I mean? Then I just flip it around and use that nice kind of appreciative inquiry trick. What would your mom, dad, what sister, brother, whoever, what would they say is one of the best things? I mean, it's a little kind of strengths based question stuff, but asking somebody just, you know what I mean, what do you think is the one thing, like one of the most important things I need to know about you from your perspective?
I like that. I've written that
Yeah.
down. Appreciate that. Nathan,
Yeah.
one tip. What do you want to give us?
So I'm a massive advocate for introspection and just, spending time with yourself and asking yourself questions. So, for example, being a teacher, sometimes I raise my voice at students, and at the end of the lesson, I ask myself why. Why did I raise my voice at that student? And a lot of it has got to do with ego. And I think if we're trying to get rid of racism, I think policies help, but I don't think it can get rid of it. Multiculturalism um, is what multiculturalism does. It helps people tolerate each other. I don't think it helps. I don't think it helps eradicate it because racism is a very deeply rooted individual behavior and attitude. And it's something that people really need to reflect on themselves, spend time by themselves and asking themselves difficult questions when nobody is around. And you'll be surprised at some of the answers until the majority of society are reflective in and around the discourse of race. I think we're still going to be living in a multicultural society where people think it's working because we are diverse. But there are going to be times where it comes out like what we saw in 2016. So to conclude, reflection and being present with your own thoughts and asking yourself, what do I truly think of another race? Why do I think that? Where has it come from? What are my experiences with them? Who's taught me that? Was that taught from the home? Because a lot of us, let's be honest, a lot of us, we were taught. We were taught about all races. I was taught. I was taught about white people. I was taught about brown people. Like, we got to be honest. A lot of our thought patterns come from, unfortunately, those that brought us up.
Straight. That's it right here, man. That's it. That is me. Yeah, yeah. And some of what I was taught was based on, some of it was to protect me, and some of it was ignorance. And unless you are reflective, no, unless you are critically reflective, that's how you undo the knots. So reflective is like, yeah, I've had that conversation. To undo the knots, you have to be critical. You have to slap yourself in the face and say, stop that. Or why, at least ask yourself why you're doing that. I love what you both have given me, given us. I just want to, if I had a hat, I'll take it off and, appreciate you both for your contributions. I mean, what can I say? I mean, I came to learn, and I've learned a lot. So much so I had to write some of it down. And here's my, listen, I was writing down, people. I was writing it down. What can we say, man? I'm gonna have to book another day in a week to get another part on this. Yeah.
Curtis, hats off though. Do you know what I mean? Like, this isn't. I don't. That's anything that. Well, I'll speak for myself. It's not me. It's like you opened up the conversation, didn't you?
Mm,
That was brave,
mm,
and thank you for that bravery. Do you know what I mean? Or else, how would we have connected? How would we have had this conversation?
for real.
Do you know what I mean? And introducing to Nathan, which has been absolutely, man, wicked insight. Loving it. Do you know what I mean? Like, literally, gets like, thanks for taking all the cogs over and me as well.
Mm.
Appreciate that.
No, honor. It's an honor. Nathan, thank you, man. As well,
Yeah.
Steve. You know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you on next Monday. We've got a whole. Hey, what's the date next week? Next Monday.
Today's the first, right?
Of course,
So,
next Monday is the 8th. Oh, we're gonna have ASYE post ASYE discussion. It's gonna be brilliant. But thank you all for your time, guys. I'll see you next Monday at 8 p.m. If you've got any questions, hit me up on the socialworkrace@gmail.com. You know, we have here Steve. Steve is on LinkedIn. Steve, tell us who your name is and how we contact you on LinkedIn.
yeah. Just look for Steve Brock, MSW. We're on LinkedIn. It's only social media that I'm actually proficient at.
LinkedIn, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Steve Brock, MSW. Yeah. Nathan, how we getting you?
At Constructive Discourse 2021 on Instagram and on TikTok, at Constructive Discourse.
And you don't have no podcast or nothing like that?
I have a podcast. Yes, it's called Constructive Discourse. It's on Spotify. Yeah, guys, please listen. Some very hard-hitting topics. I think you will like it for sure. So yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, of course, that's what it's about. I wish I spent more time on it as well. I did listen to some of your shows, so I appreciate it as well. God bless you all, guys.
Yeah, you
See
too.
you soon.
Bye-bye.
Take care.